the best in the history of the examination. No amount of shouts will displace data. It will not happen. Your data is there. As the best in the history of the examination, with record-breaking performances across all core subjects. It is obvious then that our reforms have not only expanded access, but have also enhanced the quality of education. I am glad that we have elevated TVET and STEM to where they properly belong, and that they will no longer be seen as the option for those who cannot make the top grade. We have embarked on the development of 20 STEM centers and 10 model STEM senior high schools across the nation, and also constructed 186 new science laboratories nationwide. The other day, I commissioned the Accra STEM Academy, which is destined to play a key role in the future of STEM education in our country. These institutions are designed to provide hands-on learning experiences with cutting-edge facilities. From coding to robotics, our students are being prepared for the demands of the 21st century. It has not been without challenges, but the results are evident. I'm delighted with the infrastructure transformation that has taken place on our school and university campuses. This was displayed in a dramatic fashion a few weeks ago when the Ministry of Education staged the simultaneous commissioning of 80 new educational facilities across the nation. I do not suggest that we have finished what we set out to do, but we have certainly established what a kindergarten is supposed to be like. We've established what a primary school should be like. We've set standards for what constitutes a JHS. Science laboratories are now integral parts of junior and senior high schools, and computer tablets are available for all school children. Mr. Speaker, now we know and accept that a public school building can be painted in beautiful and attractive colors. Mr. Speaker, we have aimed to make the learning and teaching atmosphere a happy one for all school children and their teachers. We spent a lot of resources on education in the past 8 years, and I'm persuaded that it is money well spent, and the long-lasting benefits for our society will provide the justification for the expenditure. Mr. Speaker, it is impossible to make any meaningful accounting of my time in office without reference to the COVID pandemic. With the passage of time, it is easy to play down the extent of the catastrophe that have brought our world to a thundering halt and brought wild animals to lounge on highways. And we remember that airports around the world were closed, and some 2 years after the formal end of the pandemic, worldwide shipping and cargo freight have not returned to normal. Schools were closed around the world, and it took courage to reopen our schools. And there are parts of the world that have not yet made up for the closure of schools necessitated by the pandemic. Probably, Mr. Speaker, the most poignant aspect of those times was not the fear that gripped us all, but the fact that we were unable to hold hands or hug each other, and we could not have funerals for our dead. It is worth emphasizing the point that with the help of the Ghanaian people and the guidance of the Almighty, we managed the pandemic in our country to the admiration of the whole world. Indeed, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Ghana emerged as a leader in Africa, managing the crisis with a balanced approach that prioritized lives and livelihoods. We were among the first countries on the continent to secure vaccines and roll out a comprehensive vaccination program. The establishment of our own vaccine manufacturing facility under the supervision of the National Vaccine Institute, a body created by Act of Parliament in collaboration with international partners, is a testament to our resolve to build resilience in our healthcare system. In the spirit of transparency and accountability, a parliamentary audit was conducted on the accounts relating to COVID-19 expenditures, reflecting my government's attachment to accountability and the effective stewardship of public resources during a time of crisis. However, the consequences of the COVID-19 upheavals on all aspects of our lives have gone way beyond what anyone could have imagined, and we're still dealing with the effects on the economy. But let me first deal briefly with the effects on the health sector. This pandemic showed up some of the alarming shortcomings of our health delivery system, and we'll strive to seek remedies to ensure that we're reasonably prepared to meet the next emergencies. The most important intervention is the Agenda 111 project we have embarked upon that aims to place a hospital in every district. Out of the 101 district hospitals and 2 psychiatric hospitals on the project list, there are 99 district and 2 psychiatric hospitals where contractors are deployed and work is in progress. I had hoped that construction would be completed on all of them, but that, alas, was not to be. I'm pleased to report that on December 5th, I had the utmost pleasure to commission 3 of the district hospitals. Progress of works on the other 98 active sites range from 5% for sites whose work commenced recently to 95% at other sites. I'm hoping that the incoming Mahama administration will ensure that the project is completed to put our health infrastructure on a sound footing. Furthermore, we launched the National Ambulance Services Revitalization Program, increasing the number of ambulances from 55 barely functioning ambulances to over 300, ensuring timely emergency response and saving countless lives. The strides in healthcare reflect our collective commitment to build a system that prioritizes the dignity, health, and well-being of every Ghanaian. Furthermore, we've revived the National Health Insurance Scheme, which at one point before I came into office appeared to be reverting to the days of cash and carry. The number of subscribers has risen from 10.6 million in 2016 to 17.9 million at the end of 2023. With the renewal of subscriptions being facilitated by a tap on the mobile phone and the scope of the scheme being broadened to include treatment for sickle cell disease, kidney dialysis, and childhood cancers. Mr. Speaker, our economy took a bigger hit from the COVID-19 pandemic and the ensuing consequences than had been anticipated. And in 2021 and 2022, we were in unaccustomed trouble. Our economy, which in my first term had been widely acknowledged to have performed creditably, marked by the longest period of single-digit inflation, 7% average GDP real growth rate, and strong external balances, was on its knees. The government's difficulties in Parliament, with the slimmest of majorities, gave the impetus to the international rating agencies to trash us on their assumption that we would struggle to get financial policy measures passed through the legislature. We faced the problems we encountered with equanimity, took a deep breath, and decided to apply for an IMF-supported program, dubbed Post-COVID-19 Program for Economic Growth, PCPEG, in the middle of 2023. The implementation of the program so far has gone well, even as it has been challenging. We have passed successfully through 3 successive reviews of program implementation by the IMF Board, with the most recent review approved on 2nd December 2024, leading to the disbursement of $360 million United States dollars. The fund has therefore disbursed a cumulative $1.912 billion United States dollars to date. At the moment, I'm able to say with confidence that the crisis is over, that the economy has recovered strongly and faster than projected. In order for me to be able to make this assertion, I must make reference to the debt restructuring exercise. It affected many bondholders and was one of the most challenging decisions my administration had to undertake. It was not a choice made lightly, as we were acutely aware of the personal and financial hardships it would impose on individuals, families, and institutions across the country. Many citizens had invested their hard-earned savings, and we fully understood the pain and sacrifices this exercise demanded. However, it became evident that without such bold and decisive action, our economy would have faced an even greater crisis with far-reaching consequences for every Ghanaian. This restructuring was essential to address unsustainable debt levels and to create the fiscal space needed to stabilize the economy and lay the groundwork for future growth. It was critical in ensuring that Ghana could meet her financial obligations, regain the confidence of international and domestic investors, and restore our economic credibility. Through the resilience and understanding of the Ghanaian people, coupled with the strategic measures we implemented, we have been able to chart a path towards the recovery that is underway. Today, we're witnessing the positive outcomes of the painful but yet necessary exercise. The economy is rebounding strongly. Our fiscal position is more stable, and our debt sustainability has significantly improved. These developments have provided a solid foundation for sustained growth and development, ensuring that the sacrifices made by bondholders and other stakeholders will not be in vain, but rather the basis of Ghana's economic revival. Mr. Speaker, the country is not broke, as some propagandists want us to believe. We're handing over the country with gross international reserves of almost $8 billion United States dollars. This is more than the $6.2 billion United States dollars of gross international reserves my administration inherited in 2017. Economic growth. The noise will not shut out the statistics. And I intend to put the statistics on the record of Hansard, no matter the amount of noise. Mr. Speaker, economic growth.
Honorable members, the level of interruption is high. Please,
Honorable members, His Excellency the President is not out of order. Please. Honorable members, your statistics might be different from his, but that doesn't mean he's misleading the House. He is in order. Please, Your Excellency, continue. Mr. Speaker, the statistics cannot be different. There's only one set of statistics that there is. It cannot be different. There's only one set of statistics. Truth is indivisible. Truth is indivisible. It's one and one only. Your Excellency, thank you very much. As an accomplished member of Parliament, you are out of order. Mr. Speaker, economic growth has also returned to the pre-COVID trajectory with an impressive growth rate, rising from 4.8% in the first quarter of 2024, 7% in the second quarter, and 7.2% in the third quarter. It is projected that this year's growth rate will be 6.3%, significantly higher than the 3.4% my administration inherited in 2017. The growth of the economy is further reflected in the growth of private sector credit. Private sector credit in nominal terms grew by 28.87% in October 2024, compared to the negative 7.5% growth recorded in the same comparative period of 2023. In real terms, growth in credit to the private sector improved to 5.5% compared to a contraction of 31.6% recorded in October 2023. This is further reinforced by improved external balances, with the current account balancing improving significantly to a surplus of 2.6% of GDP in the first 9 months of the year, compared to a deficit of 6.6% of GDP in 2016. In much the same way, the trade balance has improved. It stands at a surplus of 3.85 billion United States dollars, compared with a deficit of 1.8 billion United States dollars in 2016. Headline inflation, which stood at 23% in November, is still very high, but this is coming down from 54% recorded in December 2022, following the effects of COVID-19 and other global economic pressures. Encouragingly, food prices have also begun to decline, bringing some relief to households and contributing to a reduction in the overall cost of living. Government has implemented significant measures to address the hardships that accompany the economic difficulties. These include increased budgetary allocations towards the school feeding program, capitation grants, the National Health Insurance Scheme, and the Livelihood Empowered Against Poverty program, LEAP. The stock of public and publicly guaranteed debt increased during the economic difficulties. However, the government is servicing its debts, honoring coupon payments for both domestic bonds and Euro bonds. Moreover, the debt levels are reducing, recording a significant reduction in the debt stock by 46.8 billion Ghana cedis to 761.0 billion Ghana cedis in October 2024, from 807.9 billion Ghana cedis in September 2024. The public debt to GDP ratio, therefore, reduced from 79.2% in September 2024 to 74.6% in October 2024. This is expected to reduce further to 55% of GDP in net present value terms, a level that restores Ghana's debt sustainability. It is hoped that the new government will continue with the policies being implemented to achieve the debt sustainability target. I'm happy to inform the House that today, 3rd January 2025, my government will honor coupon payments to our Eurobond holders amounting to $346 million United States dollars. We cannot afford to default on our debt repayments. That's advice that I want to give to the incoming finance minister. These achievements demonstrate our firm commitment to the policies, structural reforms, and program objectives and targets under the program. Let me at this juncture state unequivocally that the banking sector cleanup undertaken by my administration was an act of necessity, not of vendetta. It was a bold and decisive intervention to safeguard the strength and integrity of Ghana's financial system. The illegalities and irregularities perpetuated by the affected banks and financial institutions are well documented and indisputable. These practices threaten the very foundation of our banking sector and jeopardize the hard-earned savings of millions of Ghanaians. Our actions ensure that not a single depositor lost their money, an unprecedented achievement in financial crisis management. Today, the results are there for all to see. A more robust, stable, and resilient banking sector capable of driving economic growth and supporting the aspirations of our people. It was a necessary decision to restore public confidence and secure the future of Ghana's financial sector. Mr. Speaker, my government recognized at the very outset that the fight against corruption required more than rhetoric. It demanded systemic, sustained, and strategic action. To this end, my government initiated a holistic program of legislative, administrative, financial, and technological reforms. Indeed, one of my most satisfactory moments as president was when we established the Office of the Special Prosecutor. For me, this was not just another government office. It was, and still is, a symbol of our determination to tackle corruption head-on. I wanted Ghanaians to know that no one, no matter their rank or status, would be above the law. Its creation was initially met with considerable skepticism in some quarters, but I believe now that there is general consensus that has been an important contributor to our anti-corruption efforts. During my first term, we passed the Witness Protection Act in 2018, creating a framework to safeguard individuals who cooperate with law enforcement, especially in corruption cases. Furthermore, the Criminal Offences Amendment Act 2020 elevated corruption from a misdemeanor to a felony, with harsher penalties of 12 to 25 years of imprisonment. We also enacted key laws such as the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the Revenue Administration Amendment Act, and the Anti-Money Laundering Act, all of which have strengthened our institutional framework to combat corruption and ensure accountability. We ensured that all allegations of corruption leveled against appointees were duly investigated by independent institutions of state, which generally dismiss them as unfounded. Budgetary support for accountability institutions has also witnessed unprecedented unprecedented increases. For instance, from 2017 to 2023, SRA's budget increased by 99%, Parliament's by 100%, the Office of the Attorney General by 162%, the Audit Service by 258%, and the police by 274%. These investments reflect my administration's commitment to empowering these institutions to discharge their mandates effectively, which means that the tools needed to exact accountability from all public office holders, including those of my own government, have been considerably sharpened. The application of these tools, whilst respecting as it should due process and the rule of law, however, should pose no problem, no fears for any honest public office holder. I remember the early days of these reforms when skepticism abounded. People asked, will this really make a difference? Today, the numbers speak for themselves. The Auditor General's report for 2023 showed a reduction of 5.2 billion cedis in financial irregularities, a 32% drop from the previous year. Now speak, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. I've just explained to you. From the previous year, I just said so. Listen, open your ears and listen to me. Mr. Speaker, my government has undertaken impressive reforms to strengthen Ghana's judiciary, enhancing both capacity and accessibility. Key achievements include addressing court infrastructure challenges with the construction of 100 courthouses, 90 of which have been completed and are operational, making it the biggest single infrastructural intervention for the judiciary in our nation's history. The establishment of the Court of Appeal complex in Kumasi, along with 20 townhouses and a guest house for justices in the northern sector, now enables appeals from 11 regions to be handled locally, reducing delays in justice delivery. Additionally, the implementation of the e-justice system has digitized case management and streamlined processes, solidifying the judiciary's role as a bulwark of Ghana's democracy and development. Moreover, the Law House, a modern facility for the Office of the Attorney General, has now been completed. Mr. Speaker,
All right, so for those of you who are listening on radio, we're live on Stars 3.5 FM. It's a quick break from the President's delivery of the State of the Nation address because his immediate bodyguard, who is in the army, has collapsed right during the President's address. And so doctors and a few people in there are tending to him. So that's why there's a bit of break in transmission. But we're not done with the President's delivery of the State of the Nation address. He's mentioned a number of things. You're bond holders to receive $346 million in coupons. He's also stated a lot of facts about the economy that will subject to factometer. He said the economy has recovered faster than projected. He also said with the support of Ghanaians and God, Ghana has managed the COVID pandemic to the admiration of the whole world. He's also spoken about the President's premier policy, that's the free senior high school policy, and that 5.7 million people have benefited from that particular policy. He's also spoken about the results of the West African Senior Secondary Certificate Examination, WASSCE, that 2023 results stood out as the best so far that we've recorded.
Yeah. For the purposes of those listening to us on radio, the House has been thrown into a bit of disarray because of what happened, the incident with the President's guard. And so what we do know now is that he's been rushed out of the precincts of Parliament. We've seen the National Ambulance Service come to his aid, quick aid there. And we saw people like Dr. Matthew Poku Prempe, among others, Katie Hammond, among others, basically seeking to help salvage the situation and manage it there. So what we do have now is that the Speaker will be addressing the House on the way forward. But we've seen also a police officer take over the position of the President's guard, who unfortunately just fell down. As to what really might have triggered that, we are not privy to that information. But let's listen to Speaker.
Your Excellency, you may do so now. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Apologize for that. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, infrastructure development has been a cornerstone of this administration. The construction and rehabilitation of over 12,000 kilometers of roads have improved connectivity and reduced travel times. These projects have not only facilitated trade, but also enhanced access to essential services. It is fitting, therefore, to acknowledge that this administration has constructed more roads and interchanges than any other in our nation's history. In the Greater Accra region alone, we have completed the Pokwase Interchange, Tema Motorway Interchange Phase 1, the Bechebi-Lamte Interchange Phase 1, the East Legon Underpass, and recently, the Flower Pot Interchange. Beyond Accra, we have also delivered the first ever interchanges in the Eastern region at Suhum and in the Northern region at Tamale. Each of these projects tells a story of commitment, foresight, in a Ghana that is continuously moving forward. There are 14 additional interchanges currently underway across Ghana, each at different stages of completion. In Greater Accra, we are building interchanges at Obetemi-Lamte Interchange Phase 2, Mungwa, Ajingrano, Dome Barrier, Pram, Dawenya, Savannah, and Tema Motorway Phase 2. In the Ashanti region, ongoing projects include the Swami Interchange Phase 1, Anumanji, Makro, Magazine New Road, Ebusuakura, and Abrepo, as well as the PTC interchange in Takoradi in the Western region. These projects represent the scale of our ambition, a commitment to excellence and growth that knows no limits. Mr. Speaker, in aviation, we have expanded airports, including the construction of the Yakubu Tali International Airport in Tamale, the Prempeh the First International Airport in Kumasi, the rehabilitation of the Sunyani Airport in Sunyani, and the completion of the whole airport in Ho. These projects position Ghana as a hub for regional air travel. Mr. Speaker, over the past 7 years, we have revitalized Ghana's railway sector, undertaking key projects to modernize and expand the network. Notable achievements include the rehabilitation of the 66-kilometer narrow-gauge Western Line from GHOne to Takwa, the construction of a 22-kilometer standard-gauge line between GHOne and Manso, and securing funding to extend the Western Line from Manso to Huni Valley, connecting to the port of Takoradi. Additionally, a 6-kilometer standard-gauge line in Kumasi is underway, and the Tema and Pakadan line has been completed. Progress of the Ghana-Burkina Faso Railway project further underscores efforts to enhance regional trade and integration. Mr. Speaker, we have made some good strides in improving the housing sector. Over the period, we built 1,070 affordable houses and broke ground for an additional 800 in the Greater Accra region. We've also established the National Home Ownership Fund, which is delivering 534 homes in Tema Community 22. We delivered the 1,000 homes to the security services and are delivering 600 homes for public servants through the Bungalow Redevelopment Program. Mr. Speaker, the transport sector has also seen the deployment of electric buses in major cities, reducing carbon emissions and aligning with our climate change commitments. These advancements signal Ghana's commitment to building a sustainable transport infrastructure for the future. Behind every completed road and bridge is the story of lives transformed, farmers reaching markets, students accessing schools, and families connected. Mr. Speaker, my government has prioritized the modernization of Ghana's maritime infrastructure, with the Takoradi Harbour standing as a shining example of this commitment. The port has been transformed into a world-class facility, enhancing its capacity to meet the demands of modern trade and of the oil and gas industry. In November 2024, I commissioned the state-of-the-art oil and gas services terminal, a $100 million investment, which serves as a hub for oil field operators, logistics service providers, and other key players in the energy sector. Additionally, I launched a dry bulk terminal and the Atlantic Services Container Terminal, diversifying the port's capabilities and solidifying its role as a critical player in regional and international commerce. We've also begun the processes for the construction of another modern port at Kita. These efforts are positioning Ghana as a leading logistics and shipping hub in Africa, creating jobs, boosting investor confidence, and ensuring sustainable economic growth for our nation. Mr. Speaker, agriculture remains the backbone of our economy, and our investments in this sector have been transformative. Through the distribution of over 2.7 million bags of fertilizers and improved seedlings, we have increased crop yields and enhanced food security. For example, maize production increased by 110%, rice by 48%, and soybean by 150% between 2017 and 2023. The establishment of 140 agricultural mechanization centers and the rehabilitation of irrigation schemes have modernized farming practices and reduced dependence on rain-fed agriculture. The establishment of warehouse facilities under the One District, One House initiative has also helped reduce post-harvest losses by 30%. The net effect of these policies is that our agricultural GDP growth rate rose significantly from 2.7% in 2016 to an average of 5.7% in 2023. Our cocoa sector has also witnessed remarkable improvements, with productivity increasing from an average of 450 kilograms per hectare to 800 kilograms per hectare, making Ghana a leader in sustainable cocoa production. The living income differential policy, a policy agreed to by President Alassane Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire and myself, under the aegis of the Strategic Partnership Agreement between our two countries, which is a fixed premium of 400 United States dollars per ton, added to the selling price of cocoa beans, irrespective of fluctuations in market prices, ensure that our hard-working cocoa farmers receive a fairer share of the global value chain, indeed receiving the highest prices in the history of the cocoa industry in Ghana. We were told by the minority leader on the campaign trail and in the presence of the now president-elect that my successor will increase the price per bag of cocoa from the current 3,100 cedis to 6,000 cedis. Our farmers will be very happy when this pledge is realized. In the fisheries sector, Mr. Speaker, the construction of 12 landing sites and cold storage facilities across the coastal regions, along with the commissioning of the Jamestown Fishing Harbour and the Almina Fishing Harbour, has improved livelihoods and reduced post-harvest losses. These interventions have significantly boosted the incomes of our fisher folk and contributed to the sustainability of our marine resources. We have also enforced measures to combat illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, protecting our marine biodiversity for future generations, improving the doubting Thomas wrong about our commitment to transforming the fisheries industry. This week, Ghana has made significant progress in expanding electricity access, with the electricity access rate increased to 88.85%, up from the 79.3% I inherited. In renewable energy, completed projects such as a 4-megawatt floating solar PV at Bui and a 15-megawatt solar PV at Kaleo, together with a 100-megawatt solar PV under construction at Bui and a mini-grid electrification program in Ada East, have advanced efforts to reach the 10% renewable energy target by 2030. Mr. Speaker, it is worth emphasizing that I inherited a nation plagued by doomsday, but I'm very happy to say that I leave office with the lights on. This achievement did not come without its challenges. When my administration assumed office, we inherited an energy sector legacy debt of 2.5 billion United States dollars. The Energy Sector Recovery Program, developed by government and the World Bank, projected that this debt would balloon to a staggering 12.5 billion United States dollars within 5 years if no decisive actions were taken. We knew that such a scenario would cripple the sector, undermine investor confidence, and plunge the nation back into darkness. Mr. Speaker, we got to work immediately. Through tough negotiations with independent power producers, prudent financial management, and targeted interventions, we've been able to stabilize the sector while keeping the lights on. I'm pleased to report that we've kept the energy sector legacy debt to $2.5 billion, the same level we inherited, and have averted the $12.5 billion debt scenario, despite the rising costs of energy production and the global economic challenges that have unfolded during my tenure. The energy sector has been truly transformed, and I'm leaving office confidence that the foundations we have laid will serve this nation well for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, one of the most notable milestones of my administration has been the creation of 6 new regions: Western North, Ahafo, Bono East, Oti, Northeast, and Savannah. This historic achievement responded to decades of passionate advocacy by local communities for a governance structure that brings development closer to the people. Today, these regions stand as evidence of our commitment to equitable development, with enhanced access to public services, infrastructure, and economic opportunities for millions of Ghanaians. Additionally, my administration championed a bold vision for local governance by advocating for the election of Metropolitan, Municipal, and District Chief Executives, MMDCEs. Though the process was unfortunately aborted, I remain hopeful that in the not-too-distant future, this vision will become a reality. Such a reform would deepen democratic accountability and empower citizens to shape their local governance directly, ensuring that Ghana's democracy continues to grow stronger and more inclusive. Mr. Speaker, the youth are the heartbeat of our nation, and we have implemented programs to empower them. From the National Youth Authority reforms to sports infrastructure development, will ensure that young Ghanaians have the tools and opportunities to thrive. The construction of some 150 AstroTurf pitches across the country and the rehabilitation of existing stadia have bolstered Ghana standing as a hub for international sports, including hosting successfully, despite all odds, the 2023 All-Africa Games. Creating an entrepreneurial climate has been a cornerstone of my administration's vision for empowering Ghana's youth. From the establishment of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Programs, NEIP, in 2017, with a $10 million United States seed fund, to the transformative Greenhouse Estate Project and Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center in 2020. We have supported 15,000 startups, trained 250,000 young entrepreneurs, and created over 100,000 jobs. Initiatives being implemented by the Ghana Enterprises Agency, GEA, like the Ghana Economic Transformation Program, the Hubs Grant and Acceleration Program, CAP-BUS, U-START, and the Ghana Cares Obantapa Program, have further strengthened this vision, benefiting some 1.6 million Ghanaians and dispersing over 2 billion cedis in loans and grants. These efforts have sparked innovation, created jobs, and laid the foundation for a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, leaving a legacy of opportunity and growth. Mr. Speaker, in tourism, the Year of Return in 2019 and Beyond the Return initiatives attracted over 1.5 million visitors. These campaigns not only boosted our economy, but also strengthened ties with the African diaspora, positioning Ghana as a premier destination for cultural heritage and investment. The establishment of ecotourism sites and cultural heritage projects has further diversified our tourism offerings, attracting global attention. One of the significant undertakings in this sector has been the renovation of the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum. This celebrated site, dedicated to the memory of our first president, Kwame Nkrumah, has been transformed into a world-class facility that honors his legacy and attracts visitors from around the globe. The renovations include modernized exhibits, improved infrastructure, and enhanced visitor experiences, ensuring that the mausoleum remains a symbol of Ghana's rich history and a source of inspiration for generations to come. As visitors walk through the mausoleum, they are reminded of the sacrifices and vision that built the foundations of our nation. The Nationalism Park, which I recently commissioned, and which commemorates other important personalities in our independence struggle, like Nii Kwabena Boni, Usuala Tamanche, and the legendary 3 ex-servicemen of the 1948 Christiansborg Crossroads shooting fame, Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odati Lampley, has also been added to this development, as will be the proposed Heroes Park, whose son I cut recently, and whose purpose will be to celebrate the legendary Big Six of UJCC fame and other great figures of our path to freedom. Mr. Speaker, our security forces have been equipped with modern tools and training to safeguard the nation. The establishment of foreign operating bases, such as the one I commissioned some 2 weeks ago in Ezelibo, in the Western region, the Barracks Regeneration Project, the equipping of the military and police, with the police receiving helicopters for the first time in our nation's history, the acquisition of advanced surveillance systems, and recruitment of over 10,000 police officers have enhanced our capability to combat threats and maintain peace. The successes of our anti-terrorism programs and cross-border security initiatives reflect our commitment to national and regional safety. In line with our commitment to aligning with international military norms and enhancing the authority of our top military officials, I'm pleased, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, to announce the elevation of the Chief of the Defense Staff, CDS, to the rank of General, and the Chiefs of Staff, the Chiefs of Army Staff, Navy Staff, Air Force, and the Chief of Staff at the General Headquarters to the rank of Lieutenant General or its equivalent. These promotions, alongside our successes in anti-terrorism programs and cross-border security initiatives, position Ghana as a serious player in defense and bolster our international partnerships in peacekeeping and security. In communications, the digitization of public services, including the Ghana card, mobile money interoperability, and e-services, has transformed service delivery and improved transparency. These initiatives have positioned Ghana as a leader in digital transformation on the continent, with over 18 million Ghanaians enrolled in the National Identification System. The expansion of broadband connectivity to rural areas has bridged the digital divide, ensuring inclusive access to the opportunities of the digital economy. Every citizen's ability to engage with technology is a testament to our shared belief in progress and innovation. Mr. Speaker, we have tried to make real many of the slogans that have dominated our public discourse since independence. I'm proud to have approved visa-free travel to Ghana for all African passport holders with effect from the beginning of this year. This is the logical next step to the African Continental Free Trade Area and the workings of the largest trading bloc in the world. All these are essential elements to the realization of the AU's Agenda 2063, which envisages an integrated and connected Africa by 2063. Mr. Speaker, I'm thrilled to state that under my leadership, Ghana has made significant strides in foreign policy, cementing our place as a respected voice on the African and global stage. It was during my tenure that Accra was unanimously chosen by the authority of heads of state and government of the African Union to host the Secretariat of the AFCFTA, a crucial phase in Africa's journey towards economic integration. We also secured Accra as host city of the Climate Vulnerable Forum Secretariat, a grouping of 56 countries, reaffirming Ghana's commitment to leading the fight against climate change for vulnerable nations. As chair of ECOWAS for 2 successive terms, I had the privilege of guiding our region through challenges of political instability and economic recovery. Furthermore, Ghana secured a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for 2 years, allowing us to contribute meaningfully to global peace and security at a time of unparalleled changes. Indeed, it was Ghana that led the Security Council to adopt Security Council Resolution 2667, which provides for the United Nations to pay from assessed contributions 75% of expenses of UN peacekeeping operations in Africa, a matter that had been in controversy and unresolved for several years. Additionally, Ghana witnessed a moment of immense pride when Shirley Ayoko Botry, a distinguished Ghanaian, was elected as Secretary General of the Commonwealth. The first time a Ghanaian and an African woman has held this esteemed position. I hope the House will join me to extend hearty congratulations to our Foreign Minister, Honorable Shirley Ayoko Botry. It is a prestigious position, and I'm sure she'll be a successful Secretary General and bring honor to Ghana. Another feather in the cap of Ghana's recent foreign policy has been the attainment this year of full membership of l'Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, OIF, of which we have been an associate member for some 18 years. Our country, one of the few to be full members of both the Commonwealth of Nations and La Francophonie, has the opportunity to play a constructive role as a bridge between the Anglophone and Francophone worlds, particularly in Africa, enhancing our influence. These milestones reflect my administration's dedication to advancing Ghana's interests and strengthening our standing in the international community. Mr. Speaker, there is a subject that continues to attract a lot of public discussion, and that is the call by some for a review of the 1992 Constitution, under which we have operated in this Fourth Republic for the past 32 years. Mr. Speaker, there is no perfect constitution anywhere in the world, and with all its shortcomings, I would say that this constitution has served us well. It has provided the platform for the longest period of uninterrupted, stable, constitutional democratic governance in our history. A constitution does not cure the irritations of the democratic process. There is no constitution that will satisfy the desires of those who do not believe in the democratic process. I would suggest that in the approach to the calls for a constitutional review, we should be guided by the old saying, Festine lente, the Latin adage for hasten slowly. In this spirit, I'll be forwarding the document prepared and submitted to me by the Constitutional Review Consultative Committee on proposals for the review of the Constitution, along with the concerns and suggestions raised, to the President-elect for his consideration as he prepares to assume the responsibilities of leadership. Mr. Speaker, elections are the main planks of the democratic structure. We have just had the 9th set of elections since 1992. The losing presidential candidate called the winner to congratulate him and made a public concession 14 hours after the close of polls, which it is widely agreed were conducted in a competent, free, and fair manner. I doubt there are many such examples anywhere in the world. Yes, we should condemn the outbreaks of violence that followed, in the assumption some had that because a presidential candidate had conceded defeat, the winning party should feel emboldened to cause mayhem. It appeared at one stage that the outburst of violence would overwhelm the police, who, in my view, need to re-examine rapidly their methods for containing such incidents in the future. I say so without prejudice to the excellent job they did in supervising the electoral process itself. I'm hoping that we will soon reach the stage where the unnecessary tensions that are simulated to accompany our elections will disappear, and elections will become simply something that we do, and do without a fuss and with flair. The efficient, praiseworthy manner in which the GHOne-led Electoral Commission has conducted the past two elections of 2020 and 2024, despite their challenges, is a significant contribution to this end. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take the opportunity of this august podium to congratulate again my friend, with whom I came into Parliament together for the first time in 1997, President-elect John Mahani Mahama. On his historic comeback victory of 7th December 2022. Assure him of my support and that of all well-meaning Ghanaians, and wish him well in his second term as President of the Republic. I take the opportunity also to congratulate Dr. Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, the Vice President-elect, the first woman to occupy that status in our history. Mr. Speaker, you and I have made history of a kind these past 4 years, and I must acknowledge the role you played in keeping steady the ship of state and the governance structures of our country. This is the first time the executive has to deal with not just a parliament with the slimmest of majorities, but with a speaker from the opposition party. Mr. Speaker, we found a way to accommodate each other, and the government functioned successfully. I thank you. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity also to express my gratitude to the Council of State, under the chairmanship of its highly respected traditional ruler, Nana Otuosubo II Dramani, for the great help it has given me in helping to steer the ship of highly respected traditional ruler, Nana Otuosubo II Dramani, for the great help it has given me in helping to steer the ship of state to a successful end. Nana and the members of the Council, I thank you very much for your invaluable counsel. Mr. Speaker, as I prepare to leave office on 7th January 2020, I've done so with an unwavering commitment, boundless energy, and a deep love for Ghana, always guided by the belief that our nation's best years lie ahead. Together we have weathered storms, celebrated victories, and laid the foundation for a brighter, more prosperous future. Reflecting on this journey, I'm filled with pride for what we have accomplished, from the transformative policies in education and healthcare, to the strides in agriculture, digitalization, energy, governance, infrastructure, industry, and trade. These achievements are not mine alone. They also belong to every Ghanaian who has contributed to the collective effort of nation building. We've demonstrated that through unity, resilience, and determination, we can overcome even the greatest challenges. I'm confident that the progress we have made will inspire future generations to dream bigger, aim higher, and achieve more for our beloved Ghana. Speaker, as I take my final vow, I do so in the certain knowledge that our nation will grow from strength to strength, and that freedom and justice has taken hold forever in our body politic. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to hand over a Ghana that is safe, secure, united, and firmly rooted in her attachment to democratic principles and respect for the rule of law. A nation that continues to shine as a beacon of peace and stability in an often troubled Africa and an uncertain world. I leave behind a Ghana that is thriving, one that has navigated significant global challenges with remarkable tenacity, whose economy is steadily rebounding, and whose institutions are operating effectively. It's a Ghana where the youth are being empowered with opportunities to channel their energies into meaningful and productive endeavors, where the arts are beginning to flourish, and where the elderly can grow old in safety and dignity, and continue to make meaningful contributions to society. I leave behind, Mr. Speaker, a Ghana that is working. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I thank you for your attention. Thank you, Clark. On your behalf, I with all humility convey the gratitude of the Parliament of Ghana to His Excellency the President for the message. The House has heard him. Honorable members, that was just a paraphrase. It wasn't a quote. The quote is, "Minkani yekra." I thank His Excellency the President for setting the tone for, I believe, a very, very important national discourse as the state of the nation. And we do this with the core principle of unity in diversity. Democracy is about disagreeing to agree. And we are grateful that Ghanaians and all of you have committed yourself
to this concept of multi-party democracy. I will, on your behalf, invite the leaders of the House to have a say. I have enjoyed this opportunity for many years, and I won't be the one to deny my colleagues the same opportunity. So we will start by listening to the minority front bench.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I'm grateful for the opportunity to thank His Excellency the President for the message on the state of the nation that he has just delivered. Mr. Speaker, I need to remind you that the people of Ghana have already given their verdict on the true state of the nation. And that verdict was very, very clear. Economic hardship, huge debt overhang, high youth unemployment, hopelessness, and more. We have come to the end of the road for what has been undoubtedly the worst government under the Fourth Republic. Your Honor Speaker, this abysmal record was confirmed on December 7th when the people of Ghana returned the most overwhelming and emphatic vote of rejection of any government ever witnessed under the Fourth Republic. Mr. President, you will be remembered as the first president who was cushioned by the IMF when you began, and you are still being cushioned at the end of your term. Mr. President, you left something very important in your account. You left out an account of your promise to God to build him a cathedral. But Mr. President, Mr. President, I will leave that for you, between you and your God. Mr. President, let me remind His Excellency, Honourable Speaker, that his tenure in office will remain a timely reminder of how not to govern the country. But let me also be quick to assure the good people of Ghana that hope is on its way. In President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC, we can once again gain a brighter future from the throes of despair. Together we will work hard to lift ourselves from this historic low and reclaim our place, our glory as the Black Star of Africa. Once again, fellow Ghanaians, we are comforted and strengthened by the following words of Scripture. And I'm quoting Exodus chapter 14, verse 13. And I quote, "And Moses said unto the people, Fear you not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them no more." Bye-bye, Mr. President. It is finished. With that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Honorable members, I've taken note of all those who were on their feet and what they said. But it's now time for me to invite the majority leader, the leader of the House, to have a say.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words in response to the statement on the state of the nation delivered by His Excellency the President. Mr. Speaker, this is the man who, 1997, entered the Chamber of Parliament during the second Parliament of this Republic. He inspired the youth of this country through his advocacy. Hansa testified of his great work in the chamber of this house. Then, as students, we sat at the gallery to observe and to take inspiration from him. Mr. Speaker, through resilience, through firmness of conviction, he tried over and over again and made it to the presidency. Mr. Speaker, today he has fulfilled a constitutional obligation to boldly deliver for Hansa his records in office for the 8 years. Mr. Speaker, it may be that for some political expedience, we may not appreciate what he has done for this country. But, Mr. Speaker, history, in its fair judgment, will state that there came an Akufo-Addo whose record in the educational sector of our country was unmatched and unequal. Mr. Speaker, this is a man who is never afraid of challenges that confront him.
Honorable members, please, silence. Let's listen to the majority leader. Please.
Mr. Speaker, he has given us data, which data tells us the record he came to meet and the record he's leaving us with. Mr. Speaker, the Agenda 111, a very ambitious policy to revive our health sector and to provide for the needs, the health needs of the many vulnerable communities, Mr. Speaker, which is also unmatched, is there for all of us to see. Mr. Speaker, above all, this president and his government have demonstrated that they have what it takes to keep our country safe all around us. And by virtue of my being a member of the ECOWAS Parliament, I am able to say on authority the challenges our West African neighbors face in terms of security. This country is safe and secure, and it is a heaven
for many West Africans who would want to invest in our country. This is a country we must be proud of. Mr. President, your country is proud of you. Democracy has experienced its best under your leadership. Today, we are being told that there is a new hope. That's no problem. It is supposed to be so. But soon, we will see the true colors of the umbrella. So, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say to my colleagues that you are yet to take over. We would be watching you for the next 4 years. And if indeed you have transformed, we will see with our naked eyes. This is a government that came into office and faced major challenge which confronted the world all over, but demonstrated resilience. This is a government that ensured that in spite of the COVID, all government sector workers were paid. This is a government that kept the lights on. This is a government that ensured that over 5.7 million Ghanaians had access to education. And Mr. Speaker, I would want to relate to this issue of free SHS. It took the grace of God for me to complete secondary education because my mom could not afford, my stepdad could not afford. It took the grace of God. And I know there were many Ghanaians who could not afford free SHS and because could not afford secondary education and had to stay at home. We know in our communities today, all those who could not get free SHS benefited from it when Akufo-Addo assumed office. Mr. Speaker, TVET was also implemented for those who are placed at the lowest ebb of fortune's wheel to also get advantage of getting technical education. This is it. This is the record that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is leaving us with. Mr. Speaker, posterity will be the utmost judge. And I repeat, soon and very soon, the Ghanaian people will see the true colors of this umbrella. I rest my case. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So those were the remarks of both the minority and majority leaders. So the minority was represented by Deputy Minority Leader Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, Member of Parliament for Lemble, and majority ably represented by its leader Alexander Kwame Apenyo-Marking. In the statements of the minority, it says, you have shown that this is not the best way to govern a country. That's the Egyptians you see today. You shall see them no more. You shall see them no more. And then in the words of the majority leader, he says, history will remember President Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He says, under this current administration, democracy has experienced its best. But let's go back to Parliament. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Ibrahim Al-Hassan, is still there.
I'm sure as honorable representatives of your people, you understand the full import of this wise saying. With this, honorable members, once again, let me thank all of you for creating a conducive environment and for assisting me to host His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We will now proceed to do what is expected of us, and that is to adjourn the sitting for today. Honorable members, the House stands adjourned tomorrow. You don't want to come to work. Oh, actually, we don't have time. And so I wanted you to come for us to do something tomorrow. But if you say you are available only on Monday, you prefer tomorrow. Monday. Honorable members, I get the sense of the House and will accordingly adjourn to Monday at 10 in the forenoon. The House is accordingly adjourned.
So Parliament has been adjourned to Monday, the 6th of January, 2025.
You wonder what business
they'll do on Monday ahead of their swearing in of some of them, and then the new MPs elect. President Akufo-Addo delivered his final State of the Nation address, and a number of issues he touched on. The review of the 1992 Constitution calls for it, and he says we should hasten slowly. He touched on free SHS, the much touted free SHS prior to him ascending the presidency. It was implemented. He says 5.7 million Ghanaians have gained access. But interestingly, right after his speech, IFEST has come out to debunk that assertion that 5.7 million people did not gain access to education because data from WAEC indicates that approximately 4.3 million students sat for the BEC between 2017 and 2024. Meanwhile, data from the school placement system shows that around 3.4 million students were placed in schools, even if we assume that, of course, all students who sat for the BEC were admitted to secondary, technical, or the various vocational institutions. The total will still be 4.3 million. So I'm wondering where the president is getting his data from.
Well, he says that noise will not shatter data.
but this is data from WAEC. Yeah. And WAEC is the only body mandated.
So the question is, who gave the president the data he used?
One can cry.
According to Speaker Barry. But I mean, clearly, we'll see more of this going forward because clearly the president has also raised quite a number of issues. He says that he's leaving and handing over to the next administration $8 billion gross international reserves. Mind you, when he was taking over, he says he only got $6.2 billion. And now he's added up to it. And so Ghana is not broke. You and I cannot sit here and say that the economy is broke. We are not broke. That's what President Akufo-Addo is saying.
About bread and butter.
So he says John Mahama and the propagandists, the NDC, who say the country is broke, and you know the adage has been that, well, the government has chewed all the meat and is left with the bones. He says it's a lie. In fact, the meat
you can't even find the purse, the public purse. This is not me saying. These are some political
and
watchers.
Akufo-Addo says these people are propagandists. Those who are saying that the country is broke, it cannot be true because he has even increased it. And he says he has some advice for the incoming finance minister. Who do you think is going to be the incoming finance minister?
I think he was conspicuously missing after the president's delivery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe he might be.
Okay.
Maybe since we are resetting, maybe we'll go back to Setekbe.
Well, it depends on how he resets. Oh, Akufo-Addo is now greeting Amabua, the man who decided to give him the final judge of his career. You see, he pointed to say, "One hour,
But I'm wondering where Atufo-Singh is.
Right.
Now, if Atufo-Singh had delivered that particular statement, then we would say, "Hey, Atu."
Yeah. But I mean, this is Amabua, and I'm sure the president did not see that coming.
Obviously,
So,
I'm sure. Most of the people in there, I'm sure some members in the minority saw it coming,
Yes.
but most of the
Majority side did
people
not see
in
it.
Parliament didn't see this coming.
And it was quite interesting to see Apenyo also respond to what he believes is what was received from, and people have already started saying that it was a complete mismatch between Apenyo as majority leader and a deputy minority leader who decided to give his speech. But Apenyo was basically saying that, you see, posterity will judge. And
it feels that that particular phrase is loved by our various politicians.
Oh, yes.
Because how is it that when Mahama was leaving office in 2017, he said posterity will judge.
Yeah.
In 2025, we're hearing a repeat of that particular phrase. Will posterity judge? What will be posterity's take in the management of Ghana's economy?
I think
Will
for
President
the
Mahama-
NDC and President Mahama, posterity judging them is in the fact that the baton has been given back to them.
Well,
that is the judgment of, that is the ultimate judgment. That's what Amabua noted, that as for the true state of the nation, Ghanaians have already given a verdict on that in the December 7 general elections. And so it is very glaring, it is very clear, and we are not going to see that happen again. And then Apenyo Markin comes to say, you know what, you would see in the coming days the true colors of this umbrella.
Of the umbrella.
So the umbrella's colors are not just red, white, green, black. Apenyo says we'll see the true colors of the umbrella.
Blue, red, and white.
Well, posterity will judge.
Absolutely. So this is still our coverage of the President's delivery of the State of the Nation address. President Akufo-Addo mentioned, and he also touched on bondholders. He says their sacrifices will not go in vain. It will form the basis for Ghana's economy. But you cannot give people a haircut and say that.
I mean, I want to see the face of Sophia Akufo when she heard the president say this, because you know she's been very vocal about how it's not impacted just her. And it's so, for me, it was one of the low points of this administration, seeing people as old as my grandfather queuing up, massing up, and just saying that, you see, this is something that we put together, that once we get old, at least we can depend on these things. And then now these things are not available for us because government has decided, you know what, let's do this, let's do that. And one thing President Akufo-Addo also touched on in terms of banking and issues was the fact that, you see, the banking sector cleanup, it was not a vendetta. He said it was a necessity. And I'm asking myself, whose necessity was it? Because we've seen the banks that have collapsed. We've seen Heritage Bank go under. We've seen Unibank go under. We've seen so many indigenous banks go under as a result of this structure. So whose necessity was it really? And did we yield the results that we wanted
because
to see?
we spent more in cleaning up than we needed to show up those banks. I mean,
and it's quite interesting. And he also talked about cocoa and the cocoa farmers, you know, the fact that, well, as it stands now, the price has been increased to a little about 3,000. He says that he has heard. He heard John Mahama and the minority leader say that when the NDC administration comes to power, the cocoa prices would go to as much as 6,000 cedis. And he says Ghanaians are waiting for that. The cocoa farmers will be really excited to see that happen. And in the coming days, I'm sure that we'll get to understand. And we also, one thing he also did was to elevate the military service chiefs. So we saw that the CDS has been elevated to a general, a full general. And then the military service chiefs have also been elevated to lieutenant generals. And then that was one of the things that President Akufo-Addo did. And then at around 11:43 a.m., we saw what happened with his
his AD camp,
unfortunately,
who slumped right behind the president. I took the timely intervention of some members of parliament, and then the what do you call it? The medical personnel, the members of the ambulance service.
And that's where we saw Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh also very active to make sure that.
That's when we remembered he was actually a medical doctor. And then Dr. Adumaku Kisi, Dr. Sandari as well, all came to.
And Katie Hammond, in which capacity? Dr.
Well,
because we saw him, he was there.
Well, as you know, Penny, you know, sometimes when something happens, they're Penny in the house. Yeah.
The opinion who is leaving the house, by the way.
But he's still opening the house.
Yes.
Up until 6th January.
Yes.
Yeah. The night of 6th January, he's still opening.
Okay.
Yeah, opening Kessie in the house.
But we saw all of that happen, and we saw the transition. And I've seen people ask questions that why did we have to replace the police officer who came to stand in when the president's ADC went off. And I mean, the president is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces.
Exactly.
And so clearly, it had to be a personnel from the armed forces. So later, we saw that a man in military apparel was the one who took over till the president concluded his about 1 hour, 23 minutes State of the Nation address.
He also touched on COVID-19, how it ravaged Ghana and how we've been able to manage the economy. It's ironic how countries like China, the economies have moved on. But some of us who recorded very low deaths are still reeling from the effects of COVID-19. And I'm wondering, where did we go wrong in our economic management? Well, especially when we had an economic wizkid at the helm of affairs, somebody who was, touted as the man who knew everything when it came to the economy. He had questions for the late Vice President Makwesi Emisata. He had questions on the economy. He said he wielded the magic wand. And then we were beaten by COVID. We were beaten by Russia, Ukraine. Russia, they are doing better. Ukraine is doing better. We are still struggling. And yet the economic wizkid became the digital wizkid.
The president says we did very well, but we have not fully recovered. And I'm wondering how we've not recovered. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the president was referring to the fact that we still pay levies for COVID-19.
Exactly.
I don't know that.
How much haven't we collected from the Ghanaian public since then? And why are we still struggling? You said that, e-levy was the savior. You brought in e-levy. You cancelled the tolls. You brought in COVID levy. You've even brought in Beton tax. And you're still thinking about COVID-19 pandemic. In today's age, when others have moved on, yes, we understand that economies around the globe have had huge recessions. Economies are rebounding. But why is it taking us so long when the man who wields the magic wand is the vice president and the chairman of the economic management team?
That's the challenge. You know, he was the vice president and he was the mate at a point, or he's still the mate. You guys refused to give him the steer, no? You refused to give him the steering wheel to become the man who will take the final decision. And I mean, we've heard that yes, the economic management team does not necessarily make all the decisions. They can make proposals, but the onus lies on the president to say that, you know what, I would implement this. And the president told us, in fact, Dr. Bawumia at a point said that, well, even as vice president, there were about 33 policies that he was able to push through. And so we can just say that in terms of the economic challenges that arose as a result of COVID, the president did not take that particular one, and that's why we did not see much there. But the president has said that yes, despite all of these things, we are doing very well. The country is doing very well. In fact, he mentioned a couple of things that suggested that, well, all that is happening here now is completely beautiful.
Okay, so let's go back to Parliament. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Ibrahim Alassan is engaging a few people after the president's delivery of the State of the Nation address.
But sometimes we over-exaggerate the mistakes to the extent that even the achievement that the person has made, we don't want to acknowledge it. I don't think that is fair. It's this service that we ourselves are paying to our own country. Ghana is a country that all of us are proud of. And I can tell you, I've had the opportunity of traveling around the globe. And I can tell you that everywhere you go, when you mention that you are from Ghana, the respect that they give to you is because of the way we are being governed, the way we behave, the way we conduct our elections. Some of the sad incidents that happened in this election of course, should never be allowed to happen. And these are the things that he highlighted. And I'm so grateful for him that he's put it on record for the purposes of history. That's all I can say.
What do you think will be the legacy of your friend and the president?
The legacy is what he has said. He gave a whole history of when he came to office, the level of the economy, how he was able to raise it. He spoke about all that. The various projects he's undertaken, he's given a whole catalog of them. There's nothing more I can add to that. I am proud of him as being my friend, and I'm proud of what he has done. Even if I would say that I could do something better, I may just be exaggerating my own position, that I know more than anybody else. No, I'm grateful for what he has done.
How do you feel when you hear from the other side that the president has failed?
Well, there are immature politicians also that I notice. You understand? Because you see, you give credit where credit is due, and then you criticize where there's a need to criticize. I have been in Parliament before, and we get up, and I will praise the government for this and that and that. Then I will say, but you omitted this and that and that. But this wholesale condemnation, in my mind, is immature politics.
The president finally talked about judicial reforms and that he's assisted the judiciary, and now we are better relative.
That's a fact, because I'm involved. I'm a lawyer, and I have been around. I was in Kumasi.
So that's Sam Okujeto. He is lawyer, veteran lawyer. He's also a Council of State member, and he says President Akufo-Addo has performed creditably. Anybody who says he's managed the economy poorly is not a mature politician. That's quite a strong word to use. But we told you a while ago about the collapse of the president's aide camp. Let's find, and then the elevation of some military generals as well. Let's engage a security analyst. Dr. Adam Bona joins me via Zoom for some insights into this. Doc, well, it's afternoon now. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us here on the show.
Good afternoon, Lily.
Now, the president has elevated the CDS and a few army personnel in there. What are your thoughts on it? And then his ADC slumping right behind him in the middle of his delivery of the State of the Nation address.
Well, I'm not sure if promoting generals or promoting security officers could be termed as an achievement. It's the president's prerogative to promote, to elevate, or to promote officers from one rank to the other. I'm not too sure when that became an achievement for the president to tout that as an achievement. If the CDS is within his rights to be promoted to the rank and you promote him, it means he has earned it. It means he has earned it. And so I'm not sure how WAEC could tell me that I wrote an exams, or if I'm a university student, my lecturer who would mark my end of semester paper would mark it and say it's an achievement because when he marked my paper, I passed to be promoted to the next level. Instead of probably saying it should be an achievement for the person who wrote the paper and passed, and not you, the person who has that mandate to ensure that if I really qualify, or if I wrote the paper and I pass, you promote me. And so I don't know, probably the president, those who, you see, these things, I fault the speech writers. Whatever the president read, is someone who put them together, and sometimes he doesn't even read through. And so I won't fault him. I'm sure that once again, this is a speech someone wrote, and his speech writers wrote and gave it to him, and decided to add promoting one. I mean, it should have also been touting probably the deputy IGP in charge of operations, because that is another thing he did that went to court, and they quickly backtracked and then said the person is no longer in charge of operations, even though they clearly didn't say that in court. if you look at what the AG's response to that promotion, they quickly distanced themselves from the in charge of operations and left it to stand as deputy IGP. He should have also touted that as an achievement. So I don't know where that is coming from.
But Doc, the president said that, well, if you look at how they've conducted themselves, how they've protected our territories, especially from infiltration from terrorists, if you look at what's happening across the sub-region, is this reason not valid enough?
Oh, it's you know what? I would want to give credit when it is due. The president, I won't say the president, the outgoing government, they've done something in terms of security. The country is still stable. We are minding our business. Crime levels, yes, has come down. And so you say, yes, they put in some work. But what I let me be quick to say that Ghana is not aligned. We are not aligned to any of these areas. If you look at the areas, you can talk about probably Nigeria, which is the odd one. But most of the other countries, Francophone countries, and then so for me, the same president who is touting his achievement under his tenure, he's one of the reasons why some of our West African neighbors have ceded from Mali, Burkina, and I think Niger also have ceded from the ECOWAS bloc, because he went to the US and before the cameras, he actually said the Wagner Group and Burkina and other places, which is sacrilegious. You don't do that. But he went ahead and did it. And so I don't see how the president would come around when he knows that under his tenure and that of Alassane and a few other people, we have had challenges with our West African countries. And if you for you to know that the president of the president-elect, I am told reliably from his sources that he is visiting some of these countries, trying to bring them back, and it will be one of the reasons why he did not actually attend the president's exit SONA. And so you created a lot of mess. You've left us a lot of mess in the country, a lot of mess in the ECOWAS bloc, a lot of mess. I'm telling you because I have been part of various ECOWAS meetings. So I can say this for a fact that the president did a lot of damage within the ECOWAS bloc than one would have expected.
Doc, let's talk about the collapse of his AD camp. This is nothing new, is it?
It's nothing new. My sympathies go out to him, but coincidentally, he's allegedly the one who led the members of parliament into the 8th parliament, some soldiers into the 8th parliament.
Yes.
He's the same, he's the same person. And this president failed to investigate it. The parliament is the third organ of government. Right? It's supposed to be one of the organs of government. Sure. The legislative arm of government. They invaded parliament. Up to today, we don't know who actually asked the military to invade parliament. And the aide-de-camp who collapsed, unfortunately collapsed, is the one who led the military. I would wish him well, but some of us are expecting that he would be court-martialed. I'm hoping that he will recover quickly so that when the president exits, he will still be in uniform and be court-martialed, because then leading military officers into the House of Parliament. And when you ask, none of it. The defense minister said he didn't. The national security minister said he didn't. The interior minister said he didn't. The president himself, I don't know whether he has commented, but who asked them, who issued that instruction for them to go to the House of Parliament that dawn? He led them, so he will be the one to tell us who asked him and his people to invade parliament. And so I would wish him well. It happens. It happens when they stand in the sun. When I'm sure maybe he's not feeling well. My sympathies to him, but that notwithstanding, I wish him speedy recovery so that he would face the consequence of going into parliament with military officers uninvited. When we know that when you go to parliament, there is a whole police. We have parliament police. The usual police. They have a station there. and they deal with all these things. So for them to have gone there, they're done. And up to today, under Nanado, who is touting his, performance and letting us know he's done well, no one has been punished, and we still don't know who actually led them there. I mean, my sympathies to him, but I think that I would wish him well and ask that he recovers quickly, Lily, so that he will be court-martialed. Okay,
Doc. Thank you very much, as always, for speaking to us. That's Dr. Adam Bona. He is a security analyst. Let's go back to Parliament. Ibrahim Al-Hassan is still our man on the ground. He's engaging a few other people in Parliament after the delivery of the State of the Nation address.
He was talking about it, that he himself prosecuted members within his own government. Show me one single person in MPP who was prosecuted by this government, even investigated by this government. If there are people to be investigated, I think that the daughters of the president, one who has been given over $30 million to paint interchanges, $30 million, and another one who had been given the spaces at Terminal 3, when she herself claimed that she was paying she pays $30 per square meter, when those who bidded for the spaces were willing to pay $655 per square meter. So I'm saying that President Nanado was brought here to tell us the true state of Ghana. Instead, what she told us is absolute falsehood.
Some of you thinks you should not be tagging the outgoing president as a failure, and that there are positives and there are negatives.
When you write an exams in a school, there are always marks for A grade, B grade, C grades, and there are marks for failure. So if you score any mark below the average, you have failed. So he can tell us that we shouldn't tag this president as a failure when the score sheet indicates clearly that this government, this president, is a complete failure. Now, let's look at the promises the president made. And for me, that would be a fair assessment to determine whether President Nanado indeed has achieved something positive for this country or not. The president promised not to borrow so much. President Mahama borrowed 50 billion Ghana cedis. And there are monumental projects to show what he has borrowed. They include the Circle Interchange, Rich Hospital, University of Ghana Medical Center, the Eastern Corridor, regional hospitals, the Terminal 3, the Tamale International Airport, Kumasi International, Phase 1 of Pukwasi Interchange. There are several projects, regional hospitals in Upper East, hospitals in Ashanti region, hospitals in Upper West. There are projects to show universities that President Mahama indeed established from scratch, from the 50 billion Ghana cedis that he and Prof. Mills borrowed. This president has borrowed over 700 billion. What is there to show? So on that basis, this government has failed. Unemployment was 8.4%. President Nanado and Dr. Bawumia told us that President Mahama had failed, that he was coming to reduce unemployment. Today, unemployment is hovering around 17%. That is a failure. Again, inflation was 15%. When President, then candidate Nanado, told us that President Mahama had failed because inflation was around 15%. Today, what is inflation? He has failed. If you look at debt to GDP, a little over 60%. President, then candidate Nanado told us that President Mahama had failed. Today, what is it today? So I'm saying that on every score, this government is a failure, it's a disaster. And thank God that this country had been liberated today. The proper liberation will be done on the 6th, midnight 6th of December. And this country shall not experience the kind of administration that we have been subjected to. There are a lot of people in the MPP side who we know, we have had some communications with them, who have all come to the conclusion that we have come to, that President Nanado is a monumental failure. He's not just a failure on corruption. You remember what Rebecca Akufo-Addo said when she went to Kumasi and said that the husband was not going to be corrupt. Tell me, Afro Barometer described President Nanado as the most corrupt ever in the history of this country. The score sheet on the Corruption Perception Index, the highest we ever scored as a state, happened under President Mahama when we got over 70%. The lowest of President Mahama was 43%. That is what this president is celebrating. So what is lawyer Okujeto telling us? On every score sheet, President Nanado is not only a failure, but a monumental, fantastic failure. In terms of incompetence, they have demonstrated beyond any doubt. Now, the least said about COVID, the better. When they tell us that they were able to prevent lives from being lost, how much did we borrow?
Talking about audit being done, and there are no adverse findings.
What is he talking about? Audit on what? COVID? We all witnessed what happened in this parliament. Moving Pina. We all witnessed what happened. If there are people to be investigated, I think that President Nanado's daughters ought to be investigated. So when it comes to how they manage this country, with all due respect to lawyer Okujeto, this president is a monumental, in fact, it's beyond failure. It's a disaster. So he shouldn't be telling us that we should not describe this government and this president as a failure when the score sheet demonstrates beyond any doubt that this president, his administration is beyond failure, but a disaster.
All right. So that's Murtala Ibrahim, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. We're still engaging some members of Parliament and picking their reactions to what has just been presented by President Akufo-Addo, and then, of course, that's his final State of the Nation address. And so, yes, so let's try and engage briefly Dr. Dominic Ayeni.
Okay. Then we also had Fomena District Hospital, which was about 85 to 90% completed. The the second deputy speaker, is the MP for Fomena, and he can testify to the fact that for 4 years, getting into 5 years, they abandoned that project and allowed it to get rotten. They had to come back to Parliament for us to vote a whopping 41 million, about a little over 40 million US dollars, for them to go back and complete that project. That was after the second deputy speaker, all right, then raised the issue and then asked his own government to do something about it. So for the president to now be urging His Excellency GHOne Dramani Mahama to complete uncompleted projects, I think that is a walking contradiction. But in any case, His Excellency GHOne Dramani Mahama on the campaign trail, in my constituency, for instance, he said it. He said he will complete all the projects because that's a constitutional mandate. It's a constitutional injunction. So he will do what the Constitution requires him to do. And I'm praying that we will be able to marshal the revenues and the resources for us to be able to complete the Agenda 111, projects in particular. Because I'm told that the total cost of Agenda 111 hospitals is about 1.7 billion United States of American dollars. Far in excess of what we are looking for from the IMF in terms of bailout. So I'm hoping that we will be able to mobilize domestic resources to be able to complete all these projects, within the 4-year tenure of His Excellency GHOne Dramani Mahama. So these for me were the highlights. For me, I think the president had cocooned himself, was living in a world of his own, because what he said did not measure up to the reality, that we find ourselves in this country.
He talked about judicial reforms, that he has undertaken a number of them. I just spoke to Sam Okujeto, the senior member at the bar, and he agrees that no president has done what Akufo-Addo has done, and that yours...
Anything specific that
about
he has done?
Infrastructure.
If it is infrastructure, then the infrastructure king is His Excellency John Evans Atta-Mills, followed by His Excellency GHOne Dramani Mahama. The court complex was initiated and built by the NDC. The court computerization was undertaken, when the Honorable Haruna Idrisu was the Minister of Communications, and the Chief Justice was Her Ladyship, Georgina Wood. I was deeply involved in that because I was the Deputy Attorney General at the time. So in terms of infrastructure, I don't think they measure up to, our government in providing infrastructure for the judiciary. All right. His legacy, as far as the judiciary is concerned, is this court packing phenomenon that he has left us. The whole idea that you populate the bench with your partisan hacks, who sometimes step outside the law blatantly in order to rule in favor of the MPP, just because, it is the MPP, not because the fairness or the internal morality of the law requires that, a ruling be made in their favor. So for me, that is the legacy, and it is not a good legacy that he has left for us.
Finally, he talks about constitutional reforms, yes, and that some works have been done. He will leave that to the incoming administration.
We started the constitutional review process. You remember the Professor Tuguba-led Constitutional Review Commission published a very fantastic report, all right, a very comprehensive report, and submitted it to the government. The government issued a white paper, under Professor Mills. It was continued by His Excellency GHOne Dramani Mahama. And I remember distinctly at the Attorney General's Department, we had a committee led by Professor E.V.O. Dankwa for the implementation of the constitutional review, proposals, in terms of legislative amendments to give effect to, or to enable effect to be given to the constitutional proposal. guess who were the ones who were stonewalling around 2016 on this project? It was the MPP. All right. Now, I assume the reins of government, they did very little as far as the constitutional review is concerned. Then at the last minute, they put together another committee. Okay, they stepped, away from the constitutional review commission report and then formed their own committee, which submitted a report. I honestly reviewed the report and I wasn't impressed. All right, so I don't think that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will be adopting that report for anything. We will continue from where we left. All right, because we think that the Constitutional Review Commission did a fantastic job. The implementation process started and was underway when it was abandoned. And luckily for us, I think Ghanaians understood the concept of reset, and that is why they've given us a 2/3 majority. Some of the constitutional amendments require that you have 2/3 majority of the members of Parliament to be able to effect an amendment, and we have a comfortable 2/3.
So that's an interaction with former Attorney General and a Member of Parliament for Bolga East, Dr. Dominic Akwertenga Ayene, in an interaction with Ibrahim Alassane, speaking on the President's delivery of the State of the Nation address. But the President, in his delivery, touched on his fight against corruption. He said he's resourced the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Enough. Let's speak to a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Edem Senanu. Mr. Senanu, good afternoon to you. You listen to the President.
Good afternoon to you.
You listen to the President. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that he did give a good record in terms of saying we did legislative and administrative actions that contributed to the fight against corruption. He mentions establishing the Office of the Special Prosecutor, passing the Witness Protection Law, doing an anti-money laundering law, also upgrading the issues of misdemeanor under the criminal code, and then talks about financial support that was given to the police, to the OSP, and to other such agencies, including the Attorney Generals, in order that, and these were increasing amounts. I think to a large extent, all of that, it's a true reflection of actions that were actually taken. And then he referred to how cases of corruption that came up were referred to neutral, independent entities to investigate, and that by and large, these were cleared. That for me was not a very good reflection of what transpired, because we're all concerned about how often those reports will end up with him, and then he would give us the feedback that this person or this particular investigation has shown that nobody has been found guilty. I think that I worry that sometimes perhaps the president either is not on top of all the facts himself, or others are feeding him things, or there's an intentional skewing of such results, such that they tends to want to put themselves in a limelight, which is not the reality of the rest of the citizens. So on one hand, yes, they did some actions, and I think it's important to give credit where credit is due. But on the other hand, when it comes to members of his government who were found or suspected of engaging in acts of corruption and the processes that followed that, I don't think that his commentary on that was a reflection of the reality in terms of how Ghanaians feel aspired.
Joshua, you want to ask something?
Yes, quickly, Adam. So as it stands now, the president says, yes, the people who had those corruption allegations leveled against them were investigated by independent bodies. They were cleared, and so that is it. But do you think that should be it? Should the next administration consider reopening those cases?
To the extent that there are outstanding issues that were not demonstrably addressed within the reports that were provided, there is always a course of action to take to say, look, there's new and further information, as long as the issue is not static bad. So if it's within the period and there's information that suggests that making of use should be followed, corruption by whoever at whatever level